This episode is full of our favorite whiskey tricks and tips. If you want to get your friends and family into whiskey, this is the episode you share. So the first thing you should know when it comes to whiskey skills is how to look like a badass.
Oh!
Cool, right?
That is
I'm
cool.
gonna show you how to do it. This works with bottles that have corks. Doesn't matter if natural cork or synthetic cork, it needs a cork. And you need to have enough whiskey to where the liquid is up against the cork.
Okay.
If you don't have enough and it's just air, it's not gonna work. This is actually really soft. I wanna hit this. I'm gonna hit it right there, ready?
Okay.
Right. You're gonna do the exact same thing.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're left-handed.
Yeah.
You wanna aim where it's gonna be firm.
Right there.
Yeah, one big solid fluid motion.
All right.
Whoa, good job!
Oh, it looks so cool! Woo! Look how cool I am.
So we're gonna shift gears. We're gonna get into more of like just the practical, experiential types of things when it comes to whiskey. First thing is when you're storing your bottle, don't store your whiskey on its side, especially if it has a natural cork. That ethanol will eventually erode and eat away at the cork, which is gonna be a problem. So store whiskey upright, and as long as it's like a reasonable temperature and it's not in direct sunlight just cooking, you're gonna be fine indefinitely. Okay, Richard, the Glencairn and the wee Glencairn, these are pretty much standard fare for the whiskey nerds out there. And there's a technique, there's a trick you can use to get specific measurements using just the glasses and of course a bottle. If you don't have a jigger, how does this work?
If you don't have a jigger, if you pour in 1.5 ounces, you'll be able to have enough without it spilling.
So the 1.5 ounces goes right up to that edge perfectly.
And 1/2 ounce.
And then 1/2 ounce. So if you just have glasses, if you put it on its side, you fill it up, that's a perfect 1.5 ounces.
Ta-da!
On this one, if you fill it up to the edge, it's a perfect 1/2 ounce. Okay, we did it!
So if you're new to whiskey, what's the best way to smell and find those flavors?
Okay, so first thing you want to do is put just a tiny bit in your glass, and you want to coat the inside of the glass. Just run that whiskey along the edges. Now, the only thing you can smell is the coating inside the glass. Go ahead and smell that.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Hold out your hand.
Okay.
I'm gonna do about as much as, that's just about that much. And rub your hands together. You want to see if you can rub through all that liquid and your hands become dry again.
Yeah. Oh my God!
That is like putting your nose in a jar of honey.
Honey!
Yeah. The alcohol layer,
yum.
it's not there to fight you even a
At
little
all,
bit.
at
Now
all.
whenever you go back to a glass, those layers that you were prominently, easily finding in the rinse and in your hand, you can go back and
Oh yeah,
it's a lot easier to
right
pick them
there.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think your pants are a little undone.
Oh, I missed a button. Even when they are buttoned, it looks like
wood's just flying out.
looks like my wood's flying out.
Barrels. There's different sizes of barrels that are used in whiskey. The small size that we use is 5 gallon. You can see some 5 gallons way up there. Most of the barrels we're using are the full size 53 gallon like this. Now the parts of the barrel, it's very simple. You have your head on either end. That's just the big circular area. You have your hoops, which are these metal bands, and the staves. These are individual staves and they're just right next to each other like that. The hoops hold all of these things together. So there's no screws, there's no glue. It is literally wood tightly compressed. You'll notice that the staves are black on one side. They char the inside of the barrel, and the different char levels, the different intensities of char are gonna give you different flavors. And you can also see that the color on these sides here, that is the line with which the spirit pushed into the grains of the wood. And you can see when it pushes all the way to the edge here and here, that's whenever you have a leak in the barrel. So you have this dark kind of sticky area.
Bunghole! I forgot the bunghole!
So how do we get the whiskey out of the barrel?
Right, so periodically you do need to check the whiskey, make sure that it's aging appropriately. This right here is how you remove the bung. Once it's in there, then and now we can see that this is an empty barrel. It originally had 15-year-old whiskey, but we have since dumped it. And to get the bung back in there, you just mallet it back in.
Do Do you need to do anything with barrels while they're being stored in aging whiskey?
Well, if they're stored in a good location, you should be good for a good long.
Should be good. So is there any maintenance that you have to do on maintenance? Shit.
If you have it stored in a good location, unlike this is in direct sunlight, these are spent barrels, but occasionally you're gonna need to go back, make sure that the hoops are staying tight, you don't have any leaks. As you can see here, whenever the barrels are empty, there's no spirit, no liquid to keep that wood full and tight. This stuff becomes very loose. Over time, you're gonna find a barrel does this. It becomes super dried out, and it's literally falls apart.
Oh my God.
This episode is sponsored by Caldera Lab, and specifically, The Good. This is a multifunctional serum. Now, here's my thought process whenever we first got approached and with a potential sponsorship. As you know, we try everything to make sure that's good, we like it, and you're likely to enjoy it as well. But my first instinct, my first reflex was like, that's not really our scene. And then I remembered that I use a cream every morning, and I've been using the same cream since about junior high to high school. Maybe things have developed and improved since the 90s. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I've been using this in the morning. It is definitely better. It wasn't something I was ever expected to see that much of a difference in. But I put this on and it lasts way longer, and it's a much more like, here, I'll just show you. Let me show you a little bit of thing here. Get a little bit of that. Bobbity boop, bing bong. All right, that's it. That's all I do. I hit it right here, I hit it right here. Basically, that's where I'm typically gonna be getting dry skin if I don't put something on in the morning. And it feels really nice. It's not too greasy, it's not too thick, it just keeps you nice and supple. So I expect to look 20 years younger within 6 months. And looking into it, these guys actually know what they're doing. They use pharmaceutical grade science and nature's purest and most potent extracts. It's sustainably sourced and it's cruelty free. They don't do like the animal testing stuff. And the other thing that I am going to remember in 5, 4, 3, and they donate 2% of the revenue to vetted nonprofits. And the best part, I love it when sponsors do this, there's no risk to try this. You can use it with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can get all of your money back within 60 days. We're those stylists. I had some stylists show up today that really helped me get
Oh yeah, that's looking real good. You're so soft. Let me get in close there. Oh, you're so supple. What do you think over there?
Your man flesh pleases
Oh,
me.
pleases me too. Have you seen this guy? How's it taste? How's it taste over there? Give it a lick. Go to calderalab.com/whiskey for 20% off. I mean, look at this label. It's a Caldera Lab, the good multifunctional serum. Boron. You know what I mean? That's French, baby.
So I asked the Whiskey Tribe, what is the biggest skill that somebody should develop as they're getting into whiskey? The number one reply was developing a perception of flavor notes. Now, there's a handful of different techniques and methods about, how much you put in your mouth and where you hold it and for how long and where do you move it. But I think the simplest, easiest, most effective way to begin understanding and analyzing the flavors in a whiskey, it's just comparative tasting. That is, just get 2 different whiskeys. You can start with 2 whiskeys in the same category, and you want to figure out how do they compare to each other. Whenever you're just analyzing one thing by itself, it's kind of hard to figure out, well, am I really tasting a brininess? Is that really a nutmeg? But if you have 2 things side by side, it's much easier to see and smell and taste what does this one have that this one doesn't, and vice versa. That's it. That's going to help you start putting specific words to specific flavors in that glass. How does the taste compare to both of these?
This one's a lot sweeter on the taste. This one's a little bit more peppery.
Good. Now, what kind of sweetness?
Mostly fruity sweet, but with
Okay.
like a hint of some cream.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna say, what kind of fruitiness? That's really all it is. You're gonna find very directional, general things, and then the more that you can start to narrow down and get more
Got
specific,
you.
that's how people are giving those flavors.
Okay.
Again, it's very subjective. There's no right or wrong answer, and it's gonna be very dependent on what patterns have you built in your head in terms of past flavors that you've experienced. Another really helpful skill if you're getting into whiskey is blending. Now, a lot of people, they think, if I have a fancy bottle, I don't want to blend. Blended whiskey, that's not nearly as fancy as other kinds of whiskey. But
Yeah, it is.
once you got a collection going, it's one of the coolest things you can do, but how do you do it?
So, there's a couple things you want to know. First,
start with whatever you got in the house. Say you got a Glenlivet and you want to make it a little more smoky. You got Lafroig quarter cask? Sure, why not? Here's the thing that you're going to need to remember. If you make something good, you're going to want to be able to repeat it.
Did you just take my blend?
Is that what it is?
That's my blend!
Is this your blend?
You took my blend!
Oh, this is Rex's blend.
You took my blend!
If you make something, you're gonna wanna be able to repeat it, because the worst case scenario is you just dump some things in a glass, it turns out magical, you can never do it again. So, you wanna measure, but you know, we don't carry around measuring equipment, so find something that's repeatable. A shot glass, a bottle cap, literally anything that you can turn into a ratio of 1 or half or a quarter. Rule number 2, you can't take it back out. Don't overdo it at first. If you're not sure, work in small increments. Now, I don't know how much is held in here, but I do know I did roughly, well, I'm gonna do a roughly 1-to-4 ratio. So I'm gonna do a 1 1/4 of Lafroig, and then I'm gonna let that sit. Now just give it a little bit of a swirl. You don't wanna shake it, it's whiskey, not a baby. Sorry. I'm sorry.
You cherish the whiskey.
Yeah.
It's not like a baby.
It's not smoky enough. So, let's do another 1/4 so that we know next time we can do a half of this. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Now, however many bottles you have in your house, that's as many blends as you can create. It's endless, these combinations. If all you have is 2, you can create blends. If you've got 3, you can create even more. You gotta be careful about too many competing things collapsing the flavor profile of what you're creating. Just tread gently, tread gently.
One of the most common things that a whiskey drinker is going to want to know is how to read that label well. So I think a good place to start is to be at least familiar and aware of the 13 main categories of whiskey. You have single malt, single grain, blended malt, blended grain, blended whiskey, bourbon, rye, wheat, corn, Tennessee whiskey, then Japanese and Irish and Canadian. I think that's 13, 12, somewhere in there. But even understanding what those general categories are going to offer you in terms of flavor is a really good start to making sure that you're probably going to like something in that new bottle that you're reaching for. If you're getting into whiskey, you're going to want to know how to read a label well. In general, the things that you can count on for the vast majority of whiskey labels, with a few exceptions, is going to be category, age, proof, and the origin of that whiskey. So a few examples right here. We have a Scotch. This means it had to have been made and bottled in Scotland. You can't make Scotch in other countries. Here's a bourbon. You have to make bourbon in the United States of America. And this is a lovely rye. This is one of my favorite ryes. Let's get in close around these labels and we'll see what's going on here. All right, really quick, we can see this is barrel proof. You'll often see the words cask strength. That means they did not proof the whiskey down. And whatever it was in a barrel, they just pulled it right out. They put it in a bottle. And the proof, this is legally required to put the accurate proof that goes into these bottles. This is 130.6. Half of the proof is going to give you the exact alcohol by volume. That is a 65.3% ABV whiskey. The next thing you're going to want to look at is a big number. That's going to be the age. It's called an age statement. The number you see on a bottle for the age, that is the age of the youngest barrel used to make this whiskey. So there could be other whiskeys blended into this batch that were a lot older, but you are restricted to the youngest barrel used to make the whiskey in an age statement. So the youngest thing in here is 15 years old. Don't think that just because something doesn't have an age statement, it's not a good whiskey. There are some amazing NAS whiskeys. Those are no age statement whiskeys. And sometimes the distiller wants to make something without the handcuffs of chasing a number. If it's good despite the age. You'll often see words on a bottle that say produced by such and such or bottled by such and such. The word you want to look for is distilled by. If it's distilled by that company, that means they actually made it. A lot of things that you do see on a label like small batch or premium or reserve, it means nothing. They could have small batches, but it doesn't actually have any legally binding terminology and rules. There is one very specific tool that is critical to a whiskey explorer's arsenal. It's a straw. I'm talking about adding a little bit of water to your whiskey. It does cool things. First, I want you to get over here nice and tight, right?
Shut up, you bird! You dumb bird! Go be dumb somewhere else, bird! That worked. No! No, you bird! Why?
Oh, wow. All right, so we were just chased inside by a huge flock of demonic seagulls. So this part is pretty mundane. It's just a straw in a glass of water. So we're gonna do some special effects stuff, some fancy editing and sound effects and music to make it look really epic and cool. Ready?
Can't see shit. Damn it!
So I'm gonna add just 2 or 3 drops to this.
Okay. Okay, that's with water. That's delicious.
This is a cask strength bourbon.
Ooh. Yeah, starting with the water first and then to the cask strength next was wow.
Okay. Some whiskeys, you're not gonna really find any difference at all. Other whiskeys, you're gonna just get a big release of flavors that come up to the top. Other whiskeys, it's like, wow, it seems like it's a lot softer if you add just a few drops of water. So it's one of the cooler things you can do to explore what's in that bottle.
Yeah?
But we set up this really weird long probe lens and
Oh my god, look at that, man! What the? That's what the water does. Look at that! Are you kidding me? Shit. What is that?
so it obviously breaks up the component parts of a whiskey. It needs a moment to marry with the ethanol. And all of this right now is unlocking a lot of flavors that you can explore. Eventually, this will just all settle down. It'll marry and it'll just become proofed down. But after you add a few drops of water, I did quite a bit just for effect, but after you add just a few drops of water, you get a whole new angle on that whiskey.
What else are we doing?
Don't stop.
What is he gonna do?
Why, man? You putting a dick muddler in there?
Observe. It's fine. Just this.
This episode has basically been a highlight reel of a lot of our favorite tips and tricks when it comes to whiskey. Most of these things that we talked about, they have full-on episodes with a lot more detail that are linked in the description below. And in the comments, go ahead and leave your favorite whiskey tip or trick that you think somebody should know.